Doctor. In the TARDIS. Next stop, everywhere.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Charles Skaggs, back in the TARDIS once again, ready to talk more Matt Smith with my very special guest companion, wonderful friend, and just all-around delightful person, Holly Mack from the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. How you doing, Holly?
Doing well. Thanks for the warm welcome.
Yes, thank you so much for being here once again. And obviously with Jesse Jackson still out, it's appreciated by me and hopefully our listeners too, because, you know, obviously this gives me somebody to talk to, though I'm not talking to myself or at least one of my other selves, you know, all timey-wimey, right?
Right.
So I'm sure everybody else appreciates that.
Hey, Jesse. Hope you're feeling better, bud.
Yes.
Sending good vibes your way.
Yeah, so I might as well mention that we got some good news this week.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of Jesse, my wonderful partner in time, and just all around wonderful friend, he's out of the hospital, you guys. His surgery, got through it, and thankfully all is well. I guess he had a little complications because of his hernia being a little more involved than planned, but he got through it and is now recuperating. And we're all very happy, obviously. And I just want to share that news for anyone who might not be aware of it. But yeah, Jesse's back on the mend. Now he's out of the hospital, which, as someone who's had his own hospital experiences, I know firsthand that you don't really start getting better until you get out of the hospital, which makes no sense, but that's the way it is.
Yeah, well, and you're able to sleep a little bit more at home instead of somebody checking on you every hour when you're trying to rest.
Yeah, especially like at 3 o'clock in the morning or something where, you know, they just kind of like pop in and like, oh, I'm just checking, you know, this machine to make sure you're still alive, that kind of thing.
Yeah. You can go back to sleep. It's just like, how can I when I know there's a set of eyes watching me?
Right. And I know that you're going to be back in like another hour to do it again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thankfully, Jesse's home and hopefully resting, recuperating. And so everybody, please, you know, once again, send all your positive vibes because we need him healed as quickly as possible. We want his recovery to be very, very fast and get him back here on the podcast, right? At some point.
Yes, we want him back on Team TARDIS.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Because we obviously miss him. But just want to give everybody an update. So thanks for giving me the little crack in the door to go ahead and do that there, Holly.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
So what have you been up to? I mean, I know it hasn't been that long since we've talked, but things going okay?
Oh, yeah, things are going okay. School year's winding down, so yay.
Good. So today's episode, for everybody, we are discussing here at episode 233, Closing Time. You know, which always makes me think of that Semisonic song.
Yes.
You know, Closing Time, one last call for alcohol. So finish your whiskey and beer, that kind of thing. So.
Yep, except we're not at a bar, we're at a mall.
So, yeah, we're not going to do a total 1998 flashback on you. That's as far as it gets, you know, with that little riff from Semisonic song. We're actually talking the 12th episode from Series 6 from Doctor Who that aired back in 2011. So, happy 10th anniversary, Closing Time.
Yes.
Written by Gareth Roberts, who wrote the previous stories, The Shakespeare Code, The Unicorn and the Wasp, which is a particular favorite of mine, Planet of the Dead, and The Lodger, which, of course, this is kind of a sequel to, as we get the return of Craig Owens. He also wrote the very first Sarah Jane Adventures story with Russell T Davies called Invasion of the Bane. And he recently wrote the novelization of Shada.
Yes, that
The unfinished
very
Tom
good.
Baker era serial from Doctor Who's history.
Mm-hmm.
That was written by
Yes.
Douglas Adams. And we just had Towel Day yesterday, so as a Douglas Adams fan,
That's right.
I definitely
Mhm.
celebrated. I hope all of you did as well. And this one was directed by Steve Hughes, and of course stars Matt Smith as the 11th Doctor. And in a cameo appearance only, we get the return of Karen Gillan as Amy Pond and Arthur Darvill as Rory Williams.
I completely forgot about that, and I was like, "Oh, that's right."
Mm-hmm.
I got a surprise. I'm like, am I imagining things? Okay, no.
Well, granted, it wasn't a very big cameo. I mean, all they do is they're just kind of there in the
No.
department store when the Doctor, in the probably like the biggest convenient moment ever. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I shudder to think what the odds of this actually happening are. But they just happen to be in the same department store that the Doctor is in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the Doctor sees them from afar, but can't quite, go out and tell them that he's alive.
Right. Yeah.
But it was a fun cameo regardless, and at least it reminded you that, hey, yeah, Amy and Rory are still with the show. And
yeah.
So before we get into guest cast, I kind of wanted to know your thoughts about this one. Is this something that you've watched regularly, or is this something that you just kind of pulled out because we were going to discuss it, or is it a particular favorite of yours?
It's kind of a favorite because I kind of like the lightheartedness of this one before everything goes dun 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 in next episode. Yeah, all sideways. And I like Craig. And I mean, you gotta love Stormageddon.
Yeah.
The Doctor kind of out of his element, but it's like, okay, is this what the Doctor would actually be if he's not fighting the monsters in the TARDIS?
Right.
Would he just be happy in the toy department and getting the kids to part with mom and dad's hard-earned money?
Well, at least this particular incarnation, I'm guessing.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I can't quite see the Hartnell Doctor working in a toy store. Yeah. Or the 6th Doctor, perhaps. Yeah.
Yeah. 7th, I could probably see.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The 7th Doctor definitely. Probably the 2nd Doctor as well.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick Crumb's Doctor, but.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So, guest cast. We have James Corden returning as Craig Owens, who, of course, we last saw in The Lodger, which, thankfully, we just talked not too long ago here on the podcast. He's also notable because, of course, he's the host on The Late Late Show on CBS.
Huh?
He was in Ocean's 8 and the rather disappointing Cats movie from 2 years ago.
Let's not mention that one.
Yeah. I think we're all better off, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We get the return of Alex Kingston as River Song, now Dr. River Song, as we find out at the end of this episode in a kind of a little epilogue type scene.
Yes.
Which obviously factors into her timeline. Frances Barber returns in that same scene as Madame Kavarian, and we had seen her in A Good Man Goes to War, and then we'll see her next in The Wedding of River Song, the very next episode, which will be her last appearance on Doctor Who. She was also in the movie Mr. Holmes with Ian McKellen as Sherlock Holmes. I don't know if any of you have seen that movie, but as a Sherlock Holmes buff, I watched it and I thought it was pretty good.
Cool. It is still on my to-be-watched list, but I'm thinking it might get bumped up a couple of pegs.
I definitely recommend it. It's a great performance by Ian McKellen as a much older Sherlock Holmes in retirement. So we have the return of Linda Barron as Val, who John Takis and I just talked about when we talked Enlightenment, because she played Captain Rack, one of the pirate Eternals in that story. She's also the singer of the Ballad of the Last Chance Saloon from the Gunfighters, which John and I also talked about. So I kind of feel like he should be here right now, talking this story to kind of complete the trilogy, right?
Right, yeah.
And she was also in Rome, That was an HBO series that was a particular favorite of mine, and my wife Lori's.
Yep. With Rome, that was a shame. It only lasted 2 seasons because
Yeah.
I enjoyed it too.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised. I mean, maybe just good, but I think it's probably because it was so expensive. Because
Yeah.
if you watch that show, I mean, they had like just hundreds of people in any episode, and just probably all the production costs and the costuming and all that. Probably
Yep.
just got too much for HBO at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of disappointing. But at least we got 2 good seasons of that.
Yep.
Daisy Haggard returns in a cameo as Sophie, and we just recently saw her in The Lodger, of course. She's did the voice of the Ministry Lift in Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix and Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1, notably enough. And she was also on the British sci-fi cop series Ashes to Ashes, if you're at all familiar with that, which was the sequel to Life on Mars, which starred
With John Sims.
Sim. Yeah.
It's all connected.
It's all connected, right? Ashes to Ashes also starred Keely Hawes, who is in the episode Time Heist.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're wondering where this story fits in the River Song timeline, I thought I'd mention this.
Okay.
So, the scene that we get at the very end of closing time, where River is taken by Madame Kavarian and stuffed into that astronaut suit. It's set after the events of Let's Kill Hitler,
Okay.
where she was talking about wanting to become an archaeologist. And it's before the events in, of course, The Impossible Astronaut, which was the Series 6 opener, and The Wedding of River Song, which is the Series 6 finale, the very next episode, in, of course, timey-wimey Doctor Who fashion.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, she gets to murder the Doctor, but not really, as we all know, right?
Right.
But she does go to jail for it, just to keep up appearances.
Yes. Yeah, they're very lenient in the Storm Cage.
Yeah. River, of course, being River, has figured out how to kind of find the loopholes in her imprisonment a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they haven't confiscated the psychic lipstick yet, which is beyond me.
Well, probably, every time she's out, she probably goes to get more and just stashes
True.
it in her, hides it in various places in her cell.
Yep.
So, trivia. So this episode marks the very first appearance of the Cybermats in the modern era. So as a classic Who fan, I geeked out pretty hard because, it's kind of one of those little things that you never really expected to see again in the modern era of Doctor Who. And here they are after their last appearance in 1975's Revenge of the Cybermen, all the way back in the Tom Baker era.
Mm-hmm. And still as bitey as ever.
Exactly. And this time now with teeth, which is, because this version they decided, well, if Cybermen are, have actual human body parts inside, why can't the Cybermats? So apparently the Cybermats are made out of piranhas, or at least this one is.
Yeah.
Because they kind of have like piranha-like teeth.
Teeth, yeah.
Oh, nyang, nyang, nyang.
Yeah.
So 200 years have passed for the Doctor since the events of the God Complex, the previous episode to this one, taking him to the age that his older self was in The Impossible Astronaut. The one that shows up alive, walks out of the restroom in that diner, and kind of acting like, oh, what's wrong? What's everybody upset about? So,
whose funeral did I miss?
Yeah, exactly.
You're looking at him.
Yeah. So the Doctor, in this story, we see the Doctor where he got those blue envelopes from, those TARDIS blue envelopes.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the ones that, of course, he uses to summon his companions from, to have that picnic meeting in Lake Silencio, Utah. And the story also is where the Doctor gets his Stetson hat that he wears at the start of The Impossible Astronaut. Where he delivers that classic line, like, I wear a Stetson now. Stetsons are cool.
Mm-hmm. At least River didn't shoot it off of his head like she did the Fez, so.
Right. Yeah. Which I'm still upset about because that was,
I know.
leave his Fez alone. Let him have his Fez.
Right.
What's up?
What did that poor Fez ever do to you?
Right. Just chill out, Just let him have his Fez. He'll be happy and, the river got a river sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
The Doctor expresses his dislike for Craig's quote-unquote redecorated house, which was a wonderful reference to the classic era where, of course, it kind of recycles a line from the second Doctor, Patrick Troughton's Doctor, that he used in the Three Doctors when he showed up at unit headquarters. And, when he goes inside the TARDIS, in Pertween's TARDIS. And then also in the Five Doctors in 1983, where he showed up at the refurbished unit headquarters. That's the one I'm thinking of.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the Fifth Doctor also kind of recycled that line by expressing his displeasure for the choral desktop theme.
Yes. Mm-hmm. In Time Crash.
The 10th Doctor's grunge phase, as we know. In Time Crash, yeah. So I really like that. I mean, it's a nice little throwaway gag, but it's always fun whenever one of the Doctors uses it.
Yeah. Now, was it just me, or did the opening of this kind of remind you a little bit of Rose, with the two of them, with the two girls in the beginning, I'll take care of this, you go on ahead. Lights flickering just a touch.
A little bit. Yeah, I'd say so. That's something I didn't really pick up on, but I think you're right. That maybe it's a little bit of because we had a department store.
Right.
So it does feel a little bit like Rose in a lot of ways. Yeah, I'll give you that one. Amy, of course, appears in an ad for Petrichor perfume. Say, that's a familiar word. With the tagline, "For the girl who's tired of waiting," which, of course, was a reference to the episode "The Girl Who Waited." Mm-hmm. And the concept of Petrichor was, of course, used as a psychic password in The Doctor's Wife, written by Neil Gaiman, and, of course, means the smell of dust after rain.
Uh-huh.
So writer Gareth Roberts really, having fun with the Doctor Who Easter eggs, as he usually does if you notice his scripts. He's obviously very much a Doctor Who fan and is more than happy to give a little fan service here and there.
Yes.
Which I appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're wondering why Daisy Haggard was only given a cameo in this story, this episode, apparently it's because she was busy with playing in the I guess probably the West End play Becky Shaw at the Almeida Theatre in London. So she had some previous commitments. So I guess all she had time for was a cameo, which is kind of disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
But on the upside, though, at least it kind of gave more time with the Doctor and Craig together, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And it was kind of good because the way that, instead of, it gave more bonding time to Craig and Stormageddon.
Yes.
Which was good.
Yes.
Or as Stormageddon and not Mum, as Stormageddon likes to refer to Craig as, at least at the beginning of the story. All right.
Yes.
Any other trivia that you'd like to discuss that I overlooked?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. All right. So we're just going to do 3 topics today, everybody. Pretty simple story. So topic number 1, let's talk the 11th Doctor on his farewell tour, which thankfully doesn't take as long as the 10th Doctor's farewell tour.
Mm-hmm.
And we also have, let's talk Craig Owens, because obviously, hey, they're the main 2 in the story. And let's talk the introduction of Alfie, a.k.a. Stormageddon, Dark Lord of all. So Holly, what are your thoughts about the 11th Doctor catching up with his mate Craig and finding out that Craig is now a father.
I thought it was cool to bring him back, and because they kind of hit it off to begin with in the lodger, and and I think the doctor was just like, "Oh, okay, you've moved on. He can still speak baby." A little bit more accurately this time, I think.
Right.
And and him kind of trying to reassure Craig that you're doing fine. Because he's kind of looking through the parenting book, and he's having a chuckle, like, yeah, sure.
Well, remember, we know the doctor was a father, obviously, because we know his granddaughter Susan. So logically, he had to be a father at one point.
Yes. Little Time Lords have to come from somewhere.
Exactly. So he's had experience. But Craig, it's very interesting because these two characters, the 11th Doctor, he's a little depressed. He believes he's going to die the very next day, as it comes out in the story, and on Trenzalore. So he's, or not. Not. I'm sorry, not on Trenzalore, not yet. That's but in the when he goes to Lake Silencio.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm getting my Doctor deaths.
That's okay.
A little mixed up there. Sorry. That's season series 7. Yeah.
1.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So this is the first time the Doctor thinks he's going to die. Okay.
Yeah.
So he thinks he's going to die at Lake Silencio. So kind of like his 10th incarnation, decides to go on this farewell tour, which apparently involves a lot of waving hi to Amy and Rory from afar. And then, he decides, okay, well, I'll just swing by Craig and check up on him, in case I don't get the chance to see him ever again because I'm going to be dead. So he goes there, and at first, he's a little confused because he thinks that Craig is redecorated when in fact all he did was, move into a different place with Sophie. An actual house or something. And Craig, meanwhile, has been left alone at home by
with
Sophie.
The baby.
Yes, with the baby. So this is, I think, probably Craig's first time home alone with Alfie, his son. And
so Mom has some me time.
Yeah, well, I'm sure she needs a much-needed, much-deserved rest by now. So it's kind of up to Craig now to step up to the plate and, share the load, take his responsibility for Alfie, and give poor Sophie a break. So, but he feels completely out of his depth, and he's lost, and just like he sees the doctor, and he's just kind of like begging for help with Alfie. He totally admits that. So what do you make of Craig, admitting to the doctor that he's having, he's completely failing at trying to take care of Alfie by himself?
I just think he doesn't have the confidence in himself that he can do it, because when they first meet, Craig doesn't have that confidence, because remember, the doctor was kind of the one who had to kind of shove him to make things work with Sophie. And I just think Craig just needed that confidence boost. And for him, that Craig is going to be a good father because he's worried about getting it goofed up.
Yeah, exactly.
That's showing right there that, yes, I'm concerned. I want to be involved. I want to do the right thing. He just needs a little, you've got this. Yeah.
He's not so arrogant to think that he knows everything.
Right.
He's actually the opposite. He needs to be a little more assertive, and I think that's kind of something that the doctor says that Stormageddon told him. That he needs to be more confident.
Right.
So, and it's kind of funny because, Stormageddon, as the doctor reveals, that's what Alfie wants to be called. That's that's his name for himself, right?
Yes.
Now, granted,
and everybody else is peasants.
I can't fault him. I can't fault Alfie on this one because, if I was called Alfie, I would want to be called Stormageddon Dark Lord of All instead.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
much, much cooler, right?
Yes. Or Stewie.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so Alfie apparently doesn't think too much of Craig. He
No.
is not impressed and refers to him as not mum, meaning like there's mum and not mum. So
yes.
mum is the one who matters, and Craig doesn't matter, so he's not mum. The doctor doesn't even matter because he's also not mum, according to
right.
Right, and everybody else is peasants apparently,
Mm-hmm.
which doesn't
At
bode
least
well
there's
for
no
for his future, right?
No. At least there was no frying pan involved.
Yeah, right.
For those of you who are wondering, dinosaurs.
Yes, yeah, not the mama, yeah, that thing, yeah.
Yes.
Not the mama. Yeah, I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
I used to like that show back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
So the premise of the story is essentially how Craig gets his groove back that he never really had in the beginning, but he gets his groove, right? He figures out how to become a confident dad, and he finally connects with his son that he probably never really did before this. So again, it's the doctor facing an alien threat, and in the process helping Craig improve his life. And getting his life on track. The first time obviously it was kind of pushing him towards Sophie and making that big leap, that commitment. And now it's obviously things have progressed. Craig, he's presumably doing well at his job. He's got a house. That's great, but he's not really succeeding at being a parent. So in the process, the doctor, is looking for that connection because remember at this point he's also estranged from Amy and Rory.
Right.
So.
Mm-hmm. Well, and just that one scene in the bedroom when Stormy gets a little fussy, and the doctor's just like, "Hey, what's the matter? You've got all this. You don't need to be fussing and worrying."
Right.
And then when he does this with the mobile with all the stars.
Yeah, what did you make of that? I thought it was a very cool scene where, it's that kind of mobile that kind of creates little starry images on the walls when light shines through it. But the doctor kind of amps that up to 11 with his sonic screwdriver. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And Stormy just kind of looks at it like, oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think everybody else would, if you had a baby, that would be like the ultimate for a baby's room, right?
Yes.
I'm sure there are a lot of parents out there watching this episode going, how do I get one of those?
Yes. I don't care how much, I want one.
Right. So the doctor seems to think that he's just going to pop in, check on Craig. That's going to be it. But of course, something a little fishy is going on. The lights keep flickering. And the doctor kind of has to, he's even though he's trying to talk himself out of not getting involved, of course he gets involved.
Well, because even Craig picks up on the doctor's just like, I'm just here to say hello real quick, and I'm on my way. And he's just like, you've got notice face. No, I don't. I'm not noticing that over there. And it's like, you did.
Yeah, I like Craig's line. He's like, I have nightmares about that face.
Yes, we all do.
Yeah, because we know what it means.
Usually ends up with a lot of running.
Yeah, exactly. Lots of running and lots of aliens trying to kill us. That kind of thing. So right. Mm-hmm. So the doctor, even after trying to talk himself out of getting involved, of course we know it's the doctor. He can't help it. Mm-hmm. So the next day he gets a job at the department store in the toy shop, toy area, I guess. And obviously seems quite the natural at it. You know, he enjoys playing with the toys. He's a little disappointed by the robot dog, which he kind of remembered being more fun, which was a nice little nod to K9.
K9, yep. And then what also surprises me, too, is how well he gets along with everybody else that works in the department store.
Right.
Especially when Craig just tries to do some reconnaissance and is like, hi. Like, do I need to escort you out? And then the doctor comes and like, oh, yeah, he's with me. Oh, you know the doctor. Okay, we're cool.
Yeah, so again, you know, it's the doctor is better at a job than Craig is. You know, that, you know, Craig thinks he like, okay, the doctor investigates, so I can investigate, but Craig completely fails at it. And it almost gets himself arrested for being a creepy perv on this poor shop girl.
Yes.
So, but thankfully, yeah, like you said, with the doctor's intervention, you know, the security guard backs off and everything's okay. There's another, you know, the character played by, you know, Val, played by Linda Barron, seems to think, and pretty understandably, that the doctor and Craig are a couple. And, you know, so much to Craig's surprise later on when he finds out what she thinks.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's all like, no.
We're not together.
Yeah. But apparently there's all these strange disappearances going on at the department store, which is another reason why the doctors decided to try to work there. And the doctor, you know, they start investigating. Craig follows along. And they end up teleported inside a Cyberman spacecraft.
Yep.
Which, not exactly the best place to bring your baby. I'm just guessing.
No. Nope. And then just the fact that the doctor almost gives a full-on kiss to Craig so he doesn't notice the Cybermen.
Right. Yeah, what did you make of that scene? Because it's a pretty hysterical scene where the doctor's kind of like, you know, it's all you, Craig. It's always been you, you know, and tries to, you know, come on to him, kind of like Amy would, you know, when Amy was coming on to him, but he's trying to do this to distract him from the alien threat that's behind him, so he won't panic.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I was laughing. This is like, Doctor, you should have just kind of tried to turn him around so his back is to the Cybermen.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. I mean, it made for a very funny moment, but
yeah, it did. Yes.
Even though practicality-wise, it wasn't very practical, but it was still very funny. You know, and for, you know, Craig is obviously like, what is going on here? What?
I'm here. Yeah.
Like, is this really happening? What's it? So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Doctor, not the best time to take a page out of the "What Would Amy Pond Do" book,
no, exactly.
Points
right.
for trying.
Yeah. Somehow, I don't think Amy's playbook works for the Doctor.
No.
Just my
River.
My take.
Yes. And no.
Yeah, pretty much. Let's see now. So, they also, after returning from the Cybermen spaceship, they figured out how to reverse it. They reversed the polarity, the neutron flow, head back, and apparently they find that there's a silver rat roaming the department store, which of course makes the Doctor go like, "Well, where are the silver men?"
Right.
And
and then too, how one of the people sees said silver rat and then wants to buy one as a toy for their own kid, and it's like,
right,
no, bad idea.
You know, they really need those in the shops by Christmas. I'm sure they're going to be big, right? I would want one. I just wouldn't want
Mm-hmm.
one to like eat me or turn me into a Cyberman, but
Yes.
still looks cool, right?
And
So
to backtrack just a bit, there was a
yeah.
nice little nod Star Trek with the teleport,
Mm-hmm.
with Craig's jumping and following with the Doctor's, how it happened that they wound up at the Cyberman spaceship.
Yeah, so we kind of get another confirmation that Star Trek is just a TV show in the Doctor Who
Mm-hmm.
universe, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so there's no inclination that like, oh yes, of course, I traveled to the 24th century and visited Captain Picard or what have you. Yeah,
Right. Even though some comic books have made it canon.
right. Yeah, I'm looking at you, IDW Publishing, because I own those, by the way.
So do I.
Yeah. So let's see. So after they get a hold of the I guess whether they're trying to track down the cyber mat that we find out, they end up finding a passageway behind the mirror in the changing room where this one clerk, Shona, was taken. And so the Doctor follows it down to the crashed cyber ship. So what they thought was the cyber ship was in space, but it's actually buried. And who knows how long it's been there.
Right.
So he goes down there, and Craig, meanwhile, of course, just happens to arrive in the shop. Thankfully, he leaves Alfie with Val.
Yes.
And before he goes
Smart
to
move.
investigate, right? So he follows the Doctor down there, and the two are quickly confronted by the Cybermen. So it doesn't really look good because the Doctor has been captured. Apparently, we find out very interestingly that the reason that the Cybermen haven't converted the Doctor all these years, all these stories with the Cybermen, it's kind of like it was one of those loose plot threads. It's like, well, why don't the Cybermen just convert the Doctor, right?
Right, because Craig even comes out and asks them, well,
Yeah.
why haven't they gone after you?
Yeah, but we finally get an explanation, and I was very happy that we did because we're told, well, the Doctor's brain and his binary vascular system, the fact that he has two hearts and all that, make him incompatible for Cybermen, which seems a little strange. You'd think they'd be able to adapt that.
Yeah.
But apparently, I guess Cybermen only have a type, and
Right.
the Doctor is not it, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
So at least there's some sort of an explanation here.
Right.
Which I
was
appreciate.
thinking maybe know about.
I'm sorry, I kind of lost you there. What was that?
Oh, sorry. I was, to kind of tie it to Star Trek instead of green blood, maybe it was a gold infused blood.
Right. Yeah, maybe the Doctor swallowed a bunch of gold dust at one point, made himself a little unsavory to the Cybermen. I don't know.
Yeah.
So the Doctor gets captured though, and they realize, well, okay, the Doctor's not compatible, but hey, human Craig, I think we can work with you. So let's make you our new cyber controller. And they proceed to start to convert Craig into a Cyberman. Now, the first time you saw this, what did you make of that? Were you scared that they were actually turning Craig into a Cyberman?
I was. I'm just like, out of all the people, don't convert him.
Right. He's got a baby,
that's
and
just
Sophie. And...
Right. Right. And I mean, the Doctor probably didn't want Craig there to begin with. He probably wanted to handle this all on his own. It's like, okay, great. Just another loss the Doctor needs to chalk up before going to Lake Silencio. No.
Right.
Not good.
Yeah, so, me, watching that for the first time, I'm having Adric flashbacks a little bit,
Yes. Yeah.
or just wonder, like the Cybermen killed Adric. Okay, now now they're gonna kill Craig. No, and
Right.
so, but thankfully, apparently Alfie decides to cry,
Yes. Mm.
and for whatever reason, doesn't really matter, but for whatever reason, the Cybermen just happen to me have the an audio feed of the department store of Alfie crying. And it's piping through, piping into the ship or whatever. And, of course the Cybermen are like, it's just emotions, ignore that.
Yep.
Doesn't matter.
Weakness.
Yeah, weakness, yada, yada. You know the spiel.
Mm-hmm.
But Craig hears the crying and, is able to kind of reject the conversion somehow. Like, apparently this gives him the strength of will to override the conversion process. And so it starts to reverse, like that the cyber armor that was encasing him unseals and he opens back up and he starts calling for his son.
Craig went into Papa Bear mode.
Yeah, right?
Baby Bear is probably going to be in trouble. We're going to stop this.
Right, exactly. So, Craig's obviously worried about his son. He wants to protect his son. He hears him crying, and this is like that triggers him to escape that very unfortunate fate. So, I was very happy. I think a lot of us were like, "Oh, okay." Craig's a little annoying sometimes, but we don't want him turned into a Cyberman, right?
Oh.
So,
Nope.
And apparently, though, it's not just that, because Craig's rejection of the conversion process triggers some kind of feedback loop, rather helpfully. And
Yes.
it's Doctor Who. You roll with it, right? So apparently,
right, yep.
this causes a chain reaction and causes the Cybermen to start feeling everything, like all their emotions that have been repressed by the cyber programming.
Right.
Apparently they start having an overload and they're all like clutching their heads. Oh, emotions. I can't deal with this. And then this, of course, leads to a rather big explosion.
Right. Kind of along the lines of Rusty, the Dalek.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, a little bit. Apparently, that it kind of snowballed from there, right? And
right.
So the Doctor and Craig, they get back to the department store. They're safe, and the cyber ship blows up. Threat's over, rather neatly, right?
Yep.
But the Craig, apparently, much to the Doctor's chagrin, kind of realizes, hey, I blew up the Cybermen with love. Kind of like he's, back from Woodstock or something. You're like, hey, man, I just blew up the Cybermen with love. Groovy. But the Doctor's initially kind of dismissive of it, but then he's like, okay, fine. You blew up the Cybermen with love, okay.
Yep.
All right, I'll give you that one. But the whole affair somehow makes Alfie accepting of his father. He doesn't.
Yep.
He refers to him as Dad now, not Mom, and
yep.
Things are good, right?
Yep.
For Craig,
yep.
at least.
And he's a little more grinny and cooey and not crying.
Right. So apparently, this was the for whatever reason, the Doctor has done it again. He's helped solve the problem that Craig was having bonding with his son. Mm-hmm. And the Doctor's in a very cool moment. I really like that. The Doctor was going to go off and see this like amazing galactic thing
at Exeter or something.
Yeah. But he decides, okay, I'm going to skip that and I'm going to help you clean your house because damn. And so,
the Cybermen did some damage. Or the Cyberman did some damage.
right. Well, remember there was that, there was a process, when they brought the Cybermat home, and the Cybermat tried to chew them up. That
and played dead too.
Right. So kind of a door got damaged a little bit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So.
And then some glass windows.
Right. So the doctor tidied up his mess, which is rare, very rare for him.
Rare. Yeah.
Extremely
Usually,
rare.
the doctor's like, "Oops, sorry about that. I gotta go."
Yeah, it's like, look at the time. You got this. Yep. I gotta go off and battle some Daleks or something. See ya. Bye. Peace out.
Yep.
So, but Sophie comes home. The house is spotless. Craig is bonding with Alfie. So it's like, she's all like, well, hey, how did you do this? And Craig is, kind of shrugs. He's like, oh, I pulled it together. And then Alfie spills the beans by saying, Doctor.
Yeah, yes, his first word.
Yep, of course. That has to be his first word, right?
His first word. Yep.
It was going to be either that or TARDIS, one or the other.
One of the two. Yep.
Yeah. But what did you make of this kind of happy ending that we had?
I liked it because if it wouldn't have had the happy ending, I think the whole episode would have fallen flat.
Mm-hmm. It was good.
You needed the happy ending.
Yeah. So Sophie gets some respect for Craig and his parenting skills, and the fact that she feels now that, I guess I can leave Craig and Alfie alone, and it won't be like a complete disaster, right?
Right.
Until the next weekend when the doctor doesn't show up, right?
Right. Yeah. What's this coloring on the wall?
Yeah, right. All right. So anything else about the 11th Doctor, Craig, or Stormageddon? Dark Lord of all.
It was nice to see that the doctor was still carefree, even though he knew there was some serious stuff coming up, that he could make do that, okay, sure, things are serious, but we've got this, everything will be okay.
Okay.
Because I think he kind of realized that he needed to stay calm in order to keep Craig calm.
Yes.
Which would hopefully keep Alfie calm.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
How's that saying go? Kids can sense fear.
Yeah. But, at least I did like that, that one of the other things we didn't really talk about it, but the doctor has the ability to shush people.
Yes.
It's a new power for the doctor, right?
That's one of my quotes, because that kind of ties in later on to a certain other doctor with the attack eyebrows.
All right. Well, we won't spoil that then. I don't want to spoil your quote. All right. Topic number 2. We kind of talked a lot about this already, so we can just kind of hit it, just a little bit more here. So let's talk about the Cybermen and the return of the Cybermats. So, like what I was talking about, in addition to the return of the Cybermen, we finally get to see the Cybermats in the modern era. They've got themselves a little upgrade, appropriately enough. They now have teeth, and they got a nice nice design. Very like kind of swishy rat tail thing. Bolting through the store.
Smoother.
Yeah, they've stopped moving in slow motion from the classic era.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember them from the classic era, they just kind of would kind of just nudge a little bit across the floor, and you kind of wondered why anybody would ever fall victim to them.
Yes,
but here
we could outrun them. This time, not so much.
Now, granted, if you were like sleeping or whatever, and they snuck up on you, that's when they could get you. I get that, but generally, if you saw them coming, you could easily outrun them. In the classic era. Not anymore. Not anymore, because now they just bolt across the floor, like the Roadrunner or something. You're just whoo! And And, it takes considerable effort by the Doctor and Craig to kind of net one, and which the Doctor captures and decides to call Bitey.
Bitey, yes.
Yeah.
Come along, Bitey.
Yeah, come along. Yeah, because that was a great thing. Because that's kind of one of his catchphrases where he says, "Come along, Pond," or
Yes.
"Come along, Rory," and now here he says, "Come along, Bitey." So what did you make of Bitey the Cybermat, and especially when the Doctor brings Bitey home to Craig's place and the chaos that it causes there.
Cute. And I'm just like, Doctor, you bringing the Cybermat home as a pet, this is going to not end well.
No. Like, there's a baby in the house. There's a baby in the house. It
Right.
doesn't really strike you as a great idea, does it?
No, especially with the teeth. I mean, granted, the Doctor didn't see the teeth right away, but do a little jiggery pokery to baby-proof the thing first.
Thank you. Right? Yeah. Where are the Cybermat baby teeth? The teeth guards or something.
Yes. Here, have a nook.
Yeah. Put a muzzle on that thing, I guess. I don't know.
Yes.
But yeah, I just I really loved the redesign. I thought it was very cool. And it made sense for the story. It kind of made it a little more lighthearted, I think. And just but it was just I don't know. It was a cool idea. And
Yes.
in the way I love the way they were handled. It wasn't done because the other ones, like I said, I love the great thing about the classic Cybermats was that yes, they're cheesy, but they were fun cheesy. Okay.
Right.
So here, obviously audiences aren't going to really appreciate cheesy like they used to.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Well,
go ahead, finish.
No, I'm done. Go ahead.
Okay. And just too with the beeping, it's almost kind of like a callback to the Christmas Carol.
Right.
With the broken Sonic, and then with the sharkfish eating, and then beep, beep, beep. Oh, crud.
Yeah. So he's coming, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But it made for a fun sequence, when of course, bad idea regardless, the Cyberman wakes up and starts to try to kill them in Craig's flat. And there's a moment where the Doctor, it's interesting because the Doctor is kind of locked outside.
Yes.
And Craig he's trying to warn Craig, and the Cyberman attacks him. So Craig's trying to hold off the Cyberman trying to eat his face.
Yes.
And so the Doctor is kind of like, what do I do? I don't have a Sonic or anything. So, because I left it inside. So he does to the very heroic, Doctor Who type theme. He charges through that glass window into the house.
Yep.
To now, regardless of the fact that now there's a big, hole in the door that you've shattered, but he does rescue Craig and disables the Bitey. So
yes.
But it was a fun little sequence. I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
All right. In the Cybermen, of course, we find out that cyber ship crashed centuries earlier with a single dormant survivor. And then, I guess the town council began laying some cables for whatever reason. And the Cybermen activated and tunneled to the surface to get power for their ship's systems. So, and their big plan is, we'll reemerge when we're ready and convert the planet because, all we need are 6 Cybermen. So they've been kidnapping people, I guess, to make more Cybermen. And by their odds or by their calculations, all they need are 6 to get it done. 6 is good. 6, yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So, anything else about the Cybermen or the Cybermens? Like I said, I know we talked a lot about them already, but any other thoughts you want to share?
Just great design overall and keeping with the Cybermen mythology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was kind of nice. I mean, because by now, the modern fans had been introduced to the Cybermen, so they kind of knew their deal. But this was kind of something a little, new for modern audiences, obviously, going back and bringing something from the classic era. So I kind of like that. I like that this idea was introduced. Now, granted, you don't have to use it every story with the Cybermen, but it's there if you want to use it now.
Yeah.
All right. So third and final topic today. Let's talk the epilogue in this episode. So let's talk Dr. River Song.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Madame Kavarian and the Silence. Those guys, I keep forgetting what they look like. You know the ones I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, and then the mysterious marks on the arms. Yeah.
Right. So,
don't know how those got there.
So, at the very end of the episode, after everything's good with the Doctor and Craig and Alfie and everybody, we jump ahead to the 52nd century. We go to the Luna University, which presumably is on the moon or a moon.
Mm-hmm.
River's Song is like reading accounts from those children that, the Doctor says goodbye to, like, hey, like, I was here to help, and you're very, very welcome. And
wearing the Stetson as he goes.
And the kids, normally you would think would be like, okay, who's this guy? He just showed up. But River Song is somehow reading accounts from these children all these centuries later. And she opens her diary to a page that contains only the date and time of his death. And it's at that moment that Madame Kavarian steps out of the shadows, chanting a nursery rhyme that she claims has to do with the Doctor. Tick tock goes the clock. That whole thing, yeah. All creepy like, right? So what did you make of seeing River Song in this episode and realizing that this is more of Madame Kavarian and the Silence, their mystery?
When I first saw him, like, ooh, yay, River. And then when Madame K showed up, I'm just like, oh, great.
Right.
It's you. And then we're going to get, then, when the whole thing, kill the Doctor. Oh, so we're going to get a little more answer as to the setup to what happened at Lake Silencio. So I'm just like, okay, yeah, but why now?
Well, apparently this whole sequence was written by Stephen Moffat. So it was kind of, this wasn't something that Gareth Roberts wrote. It was Moffat wanting to tack this on to the episode. So it kind of made sense because, obviously River Song's his baby, right?
Mm-hmm.
That he kind of wanted to use her and also use it to kind of remind people that, well, hey, we've got, remember the big overarching storyline? Well, there we go. Right before the season finale.
Right. For those of you who are complaining that this isn't going to get wrapped up, here's your clue. Yes, it is.
Yeah, right. Because I think a lot of us, when we first watched this, we're kind of surprised. We're like, what? It's the episode before the finale, and you're not really addressing the overarching storyline. But Moffat worked it in and kind of set up the table a little bit. So River's trying to realize, okay, so who's this Madame Kavarian who's talking to me right now?
Mm-hmm.
And Madame K tells her, well, don't bother because, we've been working on your memory. And a couple of silents show up behind her. So we're like, oh, this isn't good.
Yep.
Madame Kavarian introduces them as River's owners and calls her Melody Pond, which immediately freaks out River because, like, how do you know my real name?
Mm-hmm. Who told you?
Yeah. So Madame Kavarian says, like, well, I kind of made you who you are. You're the woman who kills the doctor. And River starts to protest, but I guess a couple members of that church show up, with that infamous Apollo astronaut suit.
Yep.
And they inject her with a sedative, and she loses consciousness. And then next time, when she wakes up, she finds herself underwater
Uh-huh.
beneath Lake Silencio in the Apollo astronaut suit, awaiting the moment where she kills the doctor. Dun dun dun.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you make of that? That realization that, oh, it was River in the suit all along. She's the one who kills the doctor.
It was shocking, and then it's just like, okay, how is this all going to play out?
Right.
I like River. I don't want her to be a baddie. How is Moffat going to?
Were you concerned that she was going to become a villain then?
Yes, I kind of was, just from the fact that we didn't know at first in the season opener who was in the
suit,
astronaut suit.
Right.
So it's just like, oh.
And then we kind of saw that little girl.
Right.
Which we didn't really, and then we started to piece it together, when we got Let's Kill Hitler, when they showed the little girl that became Mel, Mel's.
Right.
We got that, we kind of connected the dots, because was it the Day of the Moon or whatever, or that, the second part of the Impossible Astronaut, that we saw her regenerating, the little girl, and we're like, okay, what's up with this?
Right.
And then, we saw Mel's with, Amy and Rory in Let's Kill Hitler, and then she regenerates into River Song. So then we kind of piece it together like, oh, that little girl must have regenerated into Mel's, who regenerated into River.
Right.
So I guess we kind of wondered, well, okay, is the little girl version in the suit then? But as it turns out, it's the adult. It's the River Song incarnation, I should say.
Yeah.
So it was it was a little jarring, and definitely kind of like made you like, okay, I have to find out how this ends now.
Yes.
That first time we watched it, it's like, I can't believe I have to wait 7 days for this. You're killing me.
Yeah.
Moffat.
Yes, I want a blue TARDIS right now. I'll make it next week.
So, but I thought it was a very good hook, and I thought it was a good way to build up anticipation for that finale.
Yes, very much so.
All right. Any other thoughts about this episode? I know we talked a lot about it.
I don't think so. I think we hit all the high points.
All right. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. So I thought we would breeze through this pretty quickly.
Yep.
All right. So favorite quotes. I know we kind of talked that you had some. So why don't you share your favorite quotes with us, Holly?
Okay. Well, the first one I have, do they have off switches? Human beings? No, believe me, I checked. No, babies. Same difference. Sometimes this works, though. Shh.
Love it. I love it.
Which is reminiscent to the 12th Doctor's appearance after the TARDIS gets spit out and Strax knocks
deep breath,
yes, and the Doctor goes, shh.
Yes. So you think he was trying to shush Strax like he normally did? That's interesting.
Yes.
That's funny. I never made that connection. I think you're right. Because that was written by Moffat, so that makes sense. I think you're right about that.
Just the kind of way they both leaned in and did the gesture.
Now I'm going to have to rewatch that scene and see if that actually was, if Strax says anything after that, at that point.
Yeah.
That's funny. All right. Now I'm kind of wondering about that. That was a great connection, Holly. All right. Any other quotes you want to share?
Let's see. Just the Doctor's fascination with there's an app for that.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was good.
Yeah. It must be shielded from metastatic energy, of course. Oh, of course. Don't worry. I have an app for that.
Yeah.
Well, and then then the one with the noticing face, and I have nightmares about that face.
Right. I'm sure a lot of people do. At least a lot of the Doctor's companions probably do.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely the Brigadier, probably. But he won't admit it, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Quotes I have. The Doctor with Craig saying, yes, he likes that, Alfie. Though personally he prefers to be called Stormageddon, Dark Lord of All. Craig's like, sorry, what? The Doctor says, he's indicating to the baby, he's like, that's what he calls himself. Craig's like, how do you know that? And the Doctor says, I speak baby. And Craig's like, of course you do.
Yes, you do. Mm-hmm. Yeah, just like the Doctor speaks horse.
Yeah, right. Then I like the Doctor trying to talk himself out of not getting, talk himself out of getting involved.
Yes.
Where he's off by himself and he's like, just go. Shouldn't notice things. Just go. Stop noticing. Just go. Stop noticing. Just go. Stop it. Am I noticing? No, I'm not. And what I'm not doing is scanning around for electrical fluctuations. Oh, shut up, you. I'm just dropping in on a friend. The last thing I need right now is a patina of teleport energy. I'm going. Do you hear me? Going. Not staying. Going. I am through saving them. I am going away now. And then, of course, he doesn't go away.
No, it just makes me wonder if he's not having conversations with another incarnation of himself inside his mind.
Right?
Probably. Yes.
Probably. That's funny. I just love that. And then
this is just perfect.
Yeah. Craig also with the Doctor, where Craig sees the Doctor working in the shop, and Craig's like, "What the hell are you doing here?" And the Doctor replies, "Oh, I'm the Doctor. I work in the shop now. Here to help. Look, they gave me a badge with my name on it in case I forget who I am. Very thoughtful, as that does happen."
Yes.
Which, of course, is a nod to all the times the Doctor's lost his memory and all that. So,
Or accidentally put the mittens on that Strax did.
Right, that too.
Right, the memory.
Yeah, love that. All right. Any other quotes you want to share, or is that it?
I think that's it.
Okay. What's your rating for this one?
10 out of 10 Cybermats.
You really like that, huh? You really like the story. Okay. That's good. I like this one too. I mean, it's a pretty simple story. It's not like one of those that really blows me out of the way, but I really enjoy it. It entertains me. So I'm going to give it 8.5 out of 10 cool Stetson hats, because Stetson hats are cool.
Nice.
Yeah. And if you had taken that one, I would have gone with bitey Cybermats. Because they're all bitey. All right. Yes. Reverse the polarity. So we're going to reverse the polarity, the neutron flow. Back to, if you enjoyed Closing Time, I recommend The Tomb of the Cybermen, which was the first serial of season 5 in 1967, written by Kit Pedler and Jerry Davis, the creators of the Cybermen. And in this one, the TARDIS arrives on the planet Telos, where an Earth archaeological expedition led by Professor Perry is attempting to uncover the lost tombs of the Cybermen. Hey, just like the title. With help from the second Doctor, Jamie and Victoria, the archaeologists enter the tombs. And there, one of the party, Eric Klieg, reveals that he and his business partner, Kaftan, are planning to revive the Cybermen, because that's a great idea.
Oh, what could possibly go wrong?
Right? Yeah, I'm sure everything will be just fine.
Mm-hmm.
Eric Klieg wants to use their strength, allied with the intelligence of his own brotherhood of logicians, which can't be very, very logical, I'm guessing, to create an invincible force for conquest. It turns out, however, that the tomb is actually a giant trap designed to lure humans suitable for conversion into Cybermen. Don't.
Surprise.
Right? A fate that almost befalls Captain's assistant Toberman.
Cue the Admiral Akbar.
Right. It's a trap. Yeah.
Yep.
After fending off an attack by Cybermats, that's the main connection here.
Mm-hmm.
Small but dangerous cybernetic creatures. The Doctor eventually defeats the revived Cybermen, led by their cyber controller, and reseals the tombs. After resetting the defenses, the Doctor discovers the controller is still functional and works with the survivors to close it inside the tombs. While the others struggle to keep the controller inside, Toberman sacrifices himself to close the doors, completing the circuit and electrocuting both him and the controller. Rest in peace, Toberman.
Mm-hmm.
The expedition leaves, and the Doctor and his companions bid them goodbye. See ya. As they return to the TARDIS, Jamie wonders whether they have seen the last of the Cybermen, which of course the Doctor doubts. As they leave, they fail to spot a surviving Cybermat, which approaches Toberman's body. Dun dun dun.
Yeah.
Woo! The end.
Yeah.
All right.
We know what's going to happen next.
But it's one of my favorite stories from the Patrick Troughton era. So if you enjoyed Closing Time, I definitely recommend checking out The Tomb of the Cybermen. A true classic from back in the day. All right. So Holly is here, thankfully.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So we don't have feedback from her because she gets a pass, obviously, this time.
Of course.
But we do have some feedback from Dave Proctor. So cheers to
Yay.
Dave for writing in. Thank you very much, Dave, for writing in. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Dave says, hello in the TARDIS. Hello, Dave.
Hey, Dave.
Hope everyone is well. I feel like Doctor Who doing comedy can either be the best or the absolute worst. This one is one of the best.
Yay!
It's good a one-off episode of this type to already understand the characters. So how better to do that than to revisit people we've already encountered? Craig and the newest star, Stormageddon. See, nobody wants to use Alfie. It's always Stormageddon.
No.
Are familiar, so we can get on with the story, right? We already know Craig. We know Sophie. Cybermen, a strong, solid classic enemy that also needs no real introduction, is a constant favorite. What's not to love? We even have a brief encounter with Amy and Rory. The encounter with River, however, is dark and foreboding.
Uh-huh.
The Doctor is in a difficult place, but is facing his fate like a hero must. This episode leads into the wedding of River Song, and that is an epic adventure, which is one we still haven't talked about here on Next Stop Everywhere. I'm just going to put that out there. I give this episode a resounding 9 out of 10 baby mobiles turned up to cosmic.
Nice.
Thanks.
Ooh, good one.
David K. Proctor. Yeah, that was a good one, Dave. I like that one. I would have gone with baby mobiles turned up to 11. Get it?
Yeah.
11? 11th Doctor?
Yep.
But I see what you did there. So thank you, Dave. Definitely appreciate you writing in. So if you want to be like Dave, and who doesn't, or Holly when she's not here writing in, write to us at nextstopeverywhere.smg@gmail.com. That's nextstopeverywhere.smg@gmail.com. Or you can find us on Twitter at nextstopsmg on Twitter. Facebook, of course, Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast, or Instagram at Next Stop Everywhere podcast. And Holly, I'm guessing I know where you're going to refer people to when you want to shamelessly plug. So why don't you go ahead and do that and let everybody know where they can find you out there in the interwebs.
You can find me as 1/5 of the Five-ish Fangirls. You can find us on Facebook, our website, thefivishfangirls.com. And you can find me personally at HollyMac_79 on Instagram and Twitter.
Excellent. And yes, everybody, I recommend, please check out the Five-ish Fangirls podcast because Holly and Rachel and all the others, they're so wonderful. They do really great podcasts. So I recommend everybody, please check them out. They're wonderful people, obviously, and we should support them. So everybody, Five-ish Fangirls podcast definitely gets the Next Stop Everywhere seal of approval. So check them out. And then, of course, as for me, at Charles Skaggs on Twitter, at Charles Skaggs on Instagram, Facebook, of course, Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio, and my blog of geeky things.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Damn good coffee and hot, where I talk about all the stuff we talk about here on Next Stop Everywhere. So Doctor Who, Torchwood, Sarah Jane Adventures, Big Finish audios, and more. All kinds of comic book sci-fi news of my other podcasts for the Southgate Media Group, including, well, hey, the Phantom Zone podcast that I do with DJ Nick, whom you've heard here on Next Stop Everywhere, where we talk all things, comic book TV related. And right now we are wrapping up Jupiter's Legacy, the Netflix series based on the Image Comics series by Mark Millar and Frank Quitely. And Holly is nice enough to write in there as well. So thank you, Holly, for doing that. I definitely want to appreciate you doing that because you give us, some great feedback, and we definitely appreciate your thoughts on that. And I'm glad you're enjoying the show right along with us, it seems.
Yes.
So Nick and I have one more episode, and as we do the final two episodes, episodes 7 and 8 of Jupiter's Legacy, and then, we're probably I don't know what we're going to do because then we got a week off, and then we're going to talk Loki, the Marvel Cinematic Universe series, which I know a lot of people are looking forward to, including yours truly.
Yes.
So we'll get back to the Marvel Cinematic Universe very, very soon as we head into June. So everybody, please check that out. And then Ghost with the Twin Peaks podcast to do with Zan Sprouse, whom you've also heard here on Next Stop Everywhere, where we talk all things David Lynch, Twin Peaks. And right now we're going through Hotel Room, the HBO series that was from 1993. That the first and third episodes were directed by David Lynch and, feature a number of actors that are, kind of Twin Peaks related. So it makes perfect sense to talk about that on our podcast. And I hope everybody checks it out. We were kind of off this past week because yours truly had a fever of 101. Thankfully, it went away after a couple of days. So it's my fault this time we skipped the episode. So I'll take the responsibility for that one. But hopefully next week we'll get that recorded. Fingers crossed. Get that out to everybody. And then last, but certainly not least, Drunk Cinema, that I also do with Zan, as DJ Nick likes to refer to as the after party to Gold Standard of the Oscars podcast.
I like that.
Right? So, yeah, we're the Gold Standard after party, right? So we kick back, Zan and I, we have adult beverages, adult conversation, watch our favorite movies, and, obviously, there's some of your favorite movies as well. This past episode, we did Raiders of the Lost Ark, which was a lot of fun. So if you'd like to hear Zan and I kind of riffing on Raiders of the Lost Ark, definitely recommend checking that out and on Drunk Cinema. And then coming up this very week, presumably for like Friday, we're going to be recording our next episode, which is going to be the 1985 murder mystery movie based on a board game, Clue.
Ooh, nice.
Yep, starring, Tim Curry, Madeline Kahn, just Martin Mull, Christopher Lloyd. Yes. So this is a movie that, I haven't seen before, but...
You haven't?
I haven't.
Oh, you're going to...
I know, right? So you got to tune in to see my reaction to this. And then also Zan, who's a big fan of this movie, she's very excited. And then to make things even more special this time, we're going to be joined by our very first special guest host on Drunk Cinema, as Christine Peruski is going to be joining us for our discussion of Clue. So we're going to be, there's 3 of us for this one. So I hope everybody tunes in. This is one of
Rachel's favorite movies.
Oh, is it?
Well, we did an episode on the Five-ish Fangirls of it.
Okay, well that's good to know. So hey, if you want to write in about it, I definitely encourage that. You can write to us at drunkcinemapodcast@gmail.com if you want to share your thoughts about Clue. And other than that, that's all that's going on with me. Now, next time on Next Stop Everywhere, episode 234, as we discuss The Girl in the Fireplace.
Ooh,
So this is
nice
one
one.
that a lot of people have wanted over the years, but I've kind of had to tell them no.
It's been spoken for.
Yep, I've been holding out for a very special person in the hopes of getting them for this podcast, for this episode.
Oh boy.
So here I'm going to finally reveal that joining me to discuss this episode, The Girl in the Fireplace, is none other than my wife, Lori Skaggs.
Cool.
So yes, the impossible has happened, you guys. I've managed to talk Lori into coming on Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast.
Awesome.
So this is something this is Lori's favorite ever Doctor Who episode. So I told her I would reserve this one if she ever wanted to do it. And,
Cool.
like I said, I've had to kind of rebuff a lot of people that have been wanting this. So I'm really glad that she finally said yes.
Did you break out some banana daiquiris to
Oh
celebrate?
my God. It's like, it was like the clouds, parted, the sun coming down, rapturous music coming from the heavens. It was just, the like I said, the impossible has happened. And, well, hey, I don't think that's enough. Like, as special as this episode is, me and my wife finally doing a podcast together, our first ever together, Lori's first podcast ever, I want to make it a little more special. So how about we have a special guest on top of that? So returning after a brief hiatus from Next Stop Everywhere, Jesse Jackson returning to Next Stop Everywhere. Yay! And there was much rejoicing. So Jesse, obviously he just had surgery, but he really wanted to talk this episode, The Girl in the Fireplace, with Lori and yours truly. Obviously, we have a very strong connection because Jesse gave my wife Lori away at our wedding. So Lori and I consider him family. So this is going to be a very special episode. And I hope everybody, please, I hope you tune in for this one. I think it's going to be great.
Awesome. Oh, so looking forward to it.
So so that's what we're doing. Holly, I want to thank you so much for helping us out because with Jesse's absence, you're definitely appreciated. And I hope you had a good time today.
I sure did. Thanks for having me, and it's been a blast.
Yeah.
I love coming on and talking with you guys. So.
You're always welcome. I really enjoy talking to you. You're like one of the most positive people I know. So it's always a joy, and I really enjoy having you on the podcast. Everybody else, but like I said, this is going to be a big one, so please tune in. So episode 234, next time, The Girl in the Fireplace with yours truly, my wife, Lori Skaggs, and making his return appearance to give us all a wonderful update about how he's doing, Jesse Jackson, right here on Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. Goodbye, everybody.
Night.